Yo, what's up guys? Today I'm going to teach you everything about looping. I'm going to teach you everything about for loops, for each, and even iterators. So basically with for loops, consider for loops practically the standard way to do looping in Pawn and practically any other programming language. But practically what I'll do is I'll go for new. What we're going to do is we're going to specify a variable for the loop to use. So we'll go new I equals 0, and then we'll go I is less than, let's say, max players, and then we'll go I plus plus. So practically what's happening here is the loop is going to start at 0, and then it's going to go up to max players. So max players is 1,000. So practically what's going to happen here is it's going to start at 0, and then it's going to go all the way up to 999. So what I'll do is I'll go 10 here. Then if I go print f and then go like this, and then I print the variable. What would happen when I compile this? It actually takes a couple of seconds to compile because I'm using this include. But anyway, when it compiles, I'll run the server. And as you can see, what's happened is it started at 0 and it's done 10 loops. So it's gone 0 to 9. So it started at 0, it's gone all the way down to 9. So it's done the 10 loops that we specified. So that's pretty much how loops work. It loops through numbers. It starts from a specific number and then it ends at a specific number. And plus plus means go up, like increase the number, and minus minus means lower the number. So practically that's a standard loop. So I've done it under on game mode in it so I can print and show you once the game mode starts. I can show you how the loop works. But practically what I'll do is I'll move this one under here. So this is where now we can use max players. So now what's going to happen, obviously, like I said before, it's going to start at 0 and then it's going to loop all the way up to 999. So what we need to do to optimize this loop now is to narrow it down. So it's going to start at 0 and then go all the way up to 999, regardless if there's 1,000 players online or not. So what we want to do is we only want to loop through. Say we wanted to send players a message that somebody connected. What we want to do is we only want to loop through players that are connected. So what we do here is we go if is player connected. And obviously the I, because the I is the ID that we're doing. So if is player connected, and we can also go and if not is player NPC. So we can go like that. That's because NPCs are actually player IDs, and they call callbacks that like NPCs get called in callbacks for like on player connect and on player spawn and all that stuff. So we need to separate the NPCs from the players. So and we only want to loop through on players that are connected. So practically this bit of code here is only going to execute for players that are connected and players that are not NPCs. So that's pretty much a standard way you need to narrow down your loops. If you're not doing this, at least you're doing loops wrong. You need to narrow it right down as much as you can. And what you can do is you can use a function is player spawned, and then check if they're spawned, and then only loop through players that are spawned, and even narrow it down even further to loop through players that are only logged in. Say you wanted to loop through players and save their account here. What you do is you do and if is player logged in to do the check if they're logged in. So you're only looping through players that are logged in, and then you save their account, sort of thing. So that's practically the standard way to do loops. So what I'll do is I'll show you a slightly different way to do loops. So what I'll do is I'll go here and I'll grab this. And this pretty much doing the same thing. It's still a for loop, but what we're doing is we're added an extra variable here. So what we're doing is we're using this function called get player pool size, and this actually returns the highest player ID. So say the highest player ID is 10, it will return 10. So we'll only loop from 0 up to 10. So what we do is we go new I equals 0, and then we do a dash like this to create a new variable to specify another variable. And then we go j equals get player pool size, and then we go I is less or equal to j, and then we plus the I. So we use the I here, obviously. We've been here for each player ID, but practically that's only going to loop. Say the highest player ID is 10, but the other player ID is 2. It's going to loop from 0 all the way up to 10. So we still need to do checks like this. under here for players that are connected, because if the highest player ID is 10 and he's the only player ID online, it's going to do 10 loops, and it's going to go from 0 up to 10. So it's going to loop through all the player IDs that are not online. So you still need to do these sort of checks here to narrow it down. Just remember to narrow down loops as much as you can, to optimize it as much as you can, because you don't want to be looping through like 1,000 players non-stop every loop sort of thing. So that's practically for loops. So what I'm going to teach you now next is for each. So practically I'll remove this, and what you need to do, I'll put the link in the description to download YSI. So download YSI and make sure you've included iterate, and now we can use for each. So with for each, for each is just like this. So with for each, you still got to specify a variable. So we can go new I, but then you go like this and you go put those two dots like that, and then you go player. So what this does is it loops through only the players that are online. So I'll show you on screen now. It's pretty much a list. Say there's ID 1, ID 15, ID 32, and ID 99 online. It will only loop through those IDs. So it will loop through ID 1, ID 15, etc. And it won't loop through any players that are not online. So we don't have to do checks here like is player connected sort of thing here, because it's only looping through the player IDs that are connected. So this is a really optimized way and an efficient way to be able to do loops and that. But this is sort of like a default parameter, call it, for players to be able to loop through only players that are online. But what we can do is we can use vehicle, and this actually loops through only the vehicles that are actually existing on the server right now. So say you only got 2 vehicles in the server, it will only loop through those 2 vehicles. So that's pretty much the standard default way to use for each. But say we wanted to use say houses here, to loop through only the houses that we've created. To do that, we need to create our own iterators. So what we'll do is we'll go new iterator, and then we'll go houses, I believe it's like that, and then max houses like this, and I think that's how it is. So what we do is we create a new variable, a new iterator variable. This says it's not used. What we're going to do, see, max houses specifies the max amount of houses that could exist. We could go 500 here, but it's usually just whatever your max houses is what it is. So I'll go define max houses. Let's just say it's 500. So now that error there is just saying that this is never used. So now we've created a new iterator called houses. What we do is we use this function called iter_add, and it's the iterator name, which is houses. And then the value is pretty much the ID. So this is the house ID. So pretty much every time you add a house, you need to use iter_add, and you add the house ID. And every time you remove a house, or delete a house, you use remove. And also every time you load a house, you use add, and every time you unload a house, you remove. So every time a house is created, you use iter_add to add it to the list, and then every time it's removed, you use iter_remove to remove it from the list. So what I'll do is I'll use this function here just so it will compile, and let's just say we're adding house ID 0. I'll show you that it will compile. And there you go. That's how you use iterators to create your own custom iterators, so you can loop through. So instead of using a for loop, a for loop to loop through max players and looping through every single player ID, every single house ID, what you're only doing is you're only looping through the houses that you've added, and it will only loop through those IDs and nothing else. So that's pretty much how you use iterators to create your own custom iterator loops for each. So that's pretty much it for today's tutorial. Let me know in the comments if you got any other ideas for other tutorials, and I get around to do them. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.